I, Abhinav Singh, welcome you all on behalf of the entire CIMP family on Day 2 ICCSR 2022 in the 4th technical session. Now, I would like to introduce you the chairperson for this technical session, Professor Dr. Debabrata Samanta, Faculty, Department of Economics, CIMP. I would like to introduce the co-chairperson for this technical session, Professor Dr. Rajiv Ranjan, Faculty, General Management, CIMP. Now, I would like to introduce Mr. Manish Kumar and Dr. Subrata Roy to present their paper on the topic an analysis of long-run and short-run association between the stock market and economic growth.
May I request all the people presented to come here. You are the Saroj Khan today. Okay. Please, so that it will be easier for me and my co-session chair to moderate the session. And one rule I like the presenters to follow is that you will be given 10 minutes to present your paper. We will issue an warning around 8 minutes, and after your presentation there will be 3-4 minutes question and answer session. So we need to wrap up within 15 minutes. So that's the rule. So keep your presentation short and crispy. Thank you. So may I request Mr. Manish Kumar and Dr. Subrata Roy.
A very good morning to all respected sir. I am Manish Kumar, Research Scholar, Department of Commerce, Mahatma Gandhi Central University, Motihari, Bihar. I prepared the research paper under the supervision of Dr. Subrata sir, Associate Professor, Department of Commerce, Mahatma Gandhi Central University, Motihari, Bihar. He is also my research coordinator, my research supervisor. Now I am going to present my paper. My paper title is an analysis of long-run and short-run association between the stock market and economic growth, Indian influence. Now I am going to talking about the introduction. The stock market is a general term used to refer to a marketplace where deals with stock and equity share. The stock market consists of the primary market and secondary market. The secondary market is called the stock market and stock exchange. The stock market returns in the indices BSE and NSE and macroeconomic sector like GDP would affect the overall return in the stock market. Economic growth means the increase or improvement in the inflation of the market value of goods and services for a certain period of time. The economic growth is the percentage rate of increase in the real gross domestic product. National income is the measurement of economic growth. The economic growth rates of the countries are commonly compared using the ratio of GDP to population. Indian economic is a developing economic. The Indian economic is the world's 5th largest economic by GDP and 3rd largest purchasing power parties. Now, Farmer 1970 say about the 3 forms of the market efficiency, namely weak form, semi-strong form, strong form. The market efficiency indices that all the previous market price and information are fully displayed in the stock price is called the weak form. The stock price reflects all the publicly available information called the semi-strong form of the market. And the market is said to be efficient when the stock price displays all the information where insider information is of no use, also called the strong form of the market. The information efficiency of the major stock market has been extensively examined through the study of the causal relationship between the stock price indices and macroeconomic variable. Now I am talking about some literature review regarding this paper. A lot of literature review I completed this research paper, but here is some research some literature review. I mentioned the PPT. Now I am talking about the data and the study period. The study is based on the daily closing value of the Indian stock market, BSE and NSE. The data considered from the secondary source of the respective of the both indices from the official website. Data collected over a period from the 1st April 2012 to 31st March 2022. Now I will discuss about the methodology. In the study, measure the test to the market efficiency, applied the various statistical tools and techniques such as unit rule test, like ADF test and PP test, Johnson-Julius co-integration test, and Iccsr causality test. Now I will discuss about the unit rule test. The study applied the two unit rule tests, namely ADF test and PP test, to examine the market efficiency according to the Hassan et al. 2007. Unit rule test is used to study the market efficiency because it deems to randomness and non-stationary in the stock price. Thus, the two regression model. Now I am about the second tools and techniques is Johnson-Julius co-integration test. To explore the long-run relationship between the macroeconomic variable and BSE and NSE Sensex indices, Johnson-Julius 1919 co-integration technique has been used. The technique resolved the most of the problem attached with the Iccsr and Iccsr technique. This technique gives the maximum eigenvalue and trace value test the statistics for the determining the number of the co-integration vector. It is the sample size is too small, then the result will not be reliable, and one should use the auto regression distributed legs. As the trace statistics is more the robust than the maximum eigenvalue of statistics. Therefore, this study has used the formal method in the establish the long-run relationship among the variable. Also, if the test statistics is greater than the critical value of the Johnson's table, I would reject the null hypothesis that there are the R-integration vector in favor of the alternative hypothesis. Under the said test is line with Brooks 2002. Now I am discussing about the Iccsr causality test. In 1969, the Iccsr causality test was introduced by C.J. Iccsr. The test is only accepted short-run relationship between the stock price and macroeconomic variable. It is identify leading, lagging, and coincidence macroeconomic and macroeconomic variable for the stock market performance. It is also measure the predictions and information content, but does not itself has causality in that macro common use for the of the term. The test is hypothesis of the F test is applied as shown below as a UR RSS minus RSS RS by RSS is Gujarati 2004. If the computed F value exceeds the critical value at the chosen level of the significance, the null hypothesis is rejected. This would imply that macroeconomic variable Iccsr casual or improve the prediction in the stock and vice versa.
Can we have silence, please?
Now I will discuss about the result. Here, table 1 present the unit test to adopt the ADF test and PP test to check the stationarity of the variable. The ADF test and PP test statistics the outcome of the variable for the period of 2012 to 2022, so that the all variable are stationarity and first difference level, 1% and 5% level of the significance. Now I am discuss about the result of JJ test. JJ test, Johnson-Julius configuration test. Now table 2 discuss the table 2 determine the whether that exists long run equilibrium relationship.
Manish, you have 2 more minutes.
Okay. Among the variable of the study. In doing so, JJ test was used. The test identified the number of the long run relationship that exists between the set of integrated variable. Now I am discuss about the Grazer causality test. Here table 3 show the Grazer causality test whether the stock market causes GDP is see how much the current GDP can be explained by the past value of the stock market. Then to the C whether adding leg value of the stock exchange can improve the explanation. A variable Grazer causes another if the F statistics is significant and P value of the 5% or less. Following the result in table 3, the null hypothesis that a stock market does not Grazer causes GDP is rejected. The result reveals that there is the unpredicted causes relationship between a stock market and gross domestic product GDP, and it runs from a stock market to gross domestic product. Now I am discuss about conclusion. At present study try to examine the short-term and long-term relationship as well as the causality relationship between a stock market and economic growth. The empirical result reveals that a stock market develop and economic growth is positively related both in short-term and in the long-term. The result of Grazer causality test confirmed that there is the undetermination causes relationship between stock market development and economic growth. It runs from the stock market development to economic growth. Stock market regulatory authorities should therefore they address policy issues that are the capable of the boosting in investor confidence through the improved policy formulation and creation of the awareness where confidence is restored that the total value of traded will increase significantly, thus the raising the stock market capitalization, which ultimately will increase the economic growth. Thank you.
Yeah, very good insights that you have given. I have one couple of suggestions probably if you or your investigators it feels probably you can implement. See, when you take the contemporaneous data, probably T for T, when you see the GDP and stock market, whether the GDP affects the stock market or the stock market affects the GDP, normally you will have the lead lag relationship, either by 1 quarter or by 6 months, any decisions that you take taken by the government. If you take attribute wise, if you see the attribute, there will be always timing differences, whether it comes as a negative feedback or it comes as a positive feedback. Right, so that you can document. But timing you can see T-1, that T-1 may become quarter or 6 months or 1 year, whatever you say. Probably that you can think over it. That is what is one couple of suggestions, otherwise it's a wonderful job.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Economic growth.
Yeah.
So what are the other variable you can consider other than the GDP for the economic growth? Is there any literature suggesting any other variable for taking this measurement?
Sir, GDP is the so I am considered here GDP. He denote the economic growth of any country, but my paper is in India, so I consider.
Go to your data period. Which data period?
My data period is 2012 to 2022, and I am also mention the quarterly data BSc and NSc and GDP.
GDP also quarterly data.
Yeah.
So you can look for other economic growth variable, maybe the export-import data, or maybe the inflation data, maybe the FDI data. So try that model and include those variables also in the model and check if you are getting the relation between your BSc and SC and other variables. But GDP actually macro data, so you cannot interpret more on GDP. So go to literature, you check if other variables are considered, then do the analysis. That will increase the significance of your paper.
Okay.
Instead of going to the same analysis, GDP and Sensex, take other variables also. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to invite Mr. Vikas Singh to present his paper on using films for understanding CSR to SDGs, an analysis of academicians, selection of films, and students' understanding.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Vikas Singh. I'm assistant professor at University of Delhi, and I'm also completing my PhD from Ambedkar University, Delhi. So today my title is Using Films for Understanding CSR to SDGs, an analysis of academicians, selection of films, and students' understanding. I'm skipping the abstract part and directly going to my introduction. So there are a number of films that can be used to illustrate different aspects of management, and teachers can select the ones that best fits their need. Some people may find films about management and particularly CSR and SDGs to be helpful and informative, while others may find them to be dull or confusing. Ultimately, it is up to the individual to decide whether or not to use the films is an effective way to explain these concepts. Objectives. This paper has 3 objectives: to study the thoughts of CEOs and heads of human resource development public relation department on inspirational films in which starting or running a business plays a lead role in order to understand their fields better and get inspiration from time to time. Second objective is to examine the selection of the relevant films used for case studies related to managerial aspects in the classrooms by university professors. Third, to investigate the students' knowledge and advantages of learning through the selected films as case studies in management subjects. In order to attain these films, first I have discussed films as a teaching medium, where I'm talking about the viewer's attention through the use of different technical aspects like camera editing, sound, special effects, and more to create a memorable experience for the audience, and how films are components of learners' culture, and how film can expose students to experience that would otherwise be difficult to achieve. So my literature view had 3 books and 1 article, where I have tried to find out the gap and further carried with my research methodology. The research of this work is approached from the qualitative research perspective. The data are collected through semi-structured interviews of CEOs and HODs of the Human Resource Department, Public Relation Department, university professors I have interviewed and observed in their class. There was 5 professors and students 15 employing both primary and secondary data sources. The data analysis of some of these interviews have been presented further. So there are certain important quotes from the managers and CEOs. I would like to quote one. Films are a great way to extend learning beyond the classroom. Students of management studies from case studies, competition, practical work experiences, etc. But if you are looking for some realistic experience, use film to engage and learn various management skills. Okay, so it is very important in what films we are selecting. So these are few documentary films that professor from Delhi University, Rachna Singh, she is an assistant professor and former HOD of Department of Commerce and Business Studies, Shama Prasad Mukherjee College, University of Delhi. And I've also interviewed and discussed with the other 4 professors who collectively were interviewed and firmly believe that one of the best effective way to explain management, CSR and SDGs are through the use of films. Films can provide a powerful visual representation of how businesses operate, and they can also be used to illustrate the impact of the managerial activities on society. Some of the relevant films that were selected by these academicians were the corporate. All these films are documentary films, non-fictional films. So one is The Corporation, is a Canadian documentary film that explored the modern day corporation. The film looks at the rise of the corporation as a legal entity and how it has become powerful force in the world. So second one is the Inconvenient Truth that came in 2006. Third one is the 11th Hour. So these are the views that the academicians has shared, that why they have selected these particular films. Now I've also discussed after discussion in the class with the students, I have discussed with the students what they have actually got from after watching these films. So they have talked about these films and what they understood about a particular concept. So for the film The Corporation, they were talking about that they have understood that how the film has discussed about the pathological paradigm, which includes externalization of cost, disregard for social and environmental impact. Other film, Inconvenient Truth, they talked about the film found that the Earth's temperature has increased by 1.4 degree Fahrenheit over there. So they were discussing about the points that they have seen in these documentary films and discussed with their professor. And I've quickly wrote some important points related to films, how it has been effective for them. So I'm coming directly to my findings. In particular, the research showed that film can have a significant impact on how individuals' perspective, management, and its role in business, corporate social responsibility, and SDGs. The research showed that film can change the way people think about business and economics, and that they can have a positive effect on people's attitude towards management. The research has also shown that films can be an effective way to educate people about management. The research showed that the film can help people to understand the management as a subject, its characteristics, and other relevant topics like advertising, business planning, business structure, leadership, e-commerce, business ethics, CSR, and SDGs. Overall, the research showed the film can be an effective tool for teaching management. And in the conclusion, it is concluded that film are an effective way to explain management. This is because film provide a visual representation of the concepts and ideas being discussed. However, it depends on the specific film being used and the goal of the classroom activities. Thank you so much.
The paper and the conclusion is so obvious. Why will anyone take up such kind of research?
In the starting only, when I was starting with this paper, there were certain interviews that I conducted, and yes, there were some academicians who were totally against this concept of using films, because they were thinking that bringing film in the classroom is like a casual approach. So just discuss that, is it really a casual approach for some of the academicians who are from the different fields like management, and who are actually thinking that we should not bring, because a student will have a very kind of casual approach in the class. But yes, I got to know from certain academicians that it could be a very nice tool or medium. So I wanted to explore it, where few academicians are totally against it and few academicians are actually following it in their way of teaching.
Perhaps you might have met, I should not be making this statement, that perhaps you might have met wrong people in academics, because you have yourself concluded that audio visual, it is going to make a greater impact, then my suggestion for your paper would be, because I also face this particular dilemma. We have got, I won't say lots of, but there are a lot into area of finance. So we have got a few movies which are on the basis of that economic crisis. So Margin Call, Wolf of Wall Street, and so on. We cannot play the entire movie. We can play some clippings. So another, you can take it forward wherein you can see that what time span can be actually devoted, because if it is a class of say for 5 minutes or 75 minutes or 90 minutes, depending upon the university or institute, you cannot dedicate the entire time for playing that movie. So perhaps that kind of research will be better, and then you can come up with a finding what time span do actually student enjoy as well as gain good learning, and what time the professors feel that is going to add value to the particular session that they are taking. That could be an extension of your research work, because this is so obvious. No one would like to take up such kind of research.
Thank you, sir. That's why I have taken documentary films where the almost null, and maybe it is present. It is obviously present in the feature films. Thank you.
Hello?
Yes.
I would say that haven't you done like this, like if you could have gone to a classroom before starting the film or documentary, you could have noted the purpose for which it's being shown, and then you could have seen the impact on the student, that what learning they have learned. That could have made it more obvious rather than having just interviewed professors.
Okay. I would like to.
Because you yourself would have seen that what impact will it have on the students or what learning they have learned.
Yes. So what I have done, I just would like to add that there was a theory class. They have divided theory class and practical class discussion. So I have observed. I got the chance to sit in the theory class also. So there, when the teacher explained the concepts, there were some students who could answer the questions. But after that, on the next day, there were a practical class with discussion where they have shown certain clips of these films. And when I have discussed with those students, so they were cleared with more concepts because they have experienced it, they have recognized. So I have attended, I have observed sitting in the class, both theory and practical.
Professor, I have one suggestion. The courses, right from 0 to 1000. So when you have 0 to 100 like the ITI and the diploma courses, the pedagogical interventions are slightly different. You can be dependent on this case studies too much, movies, practical demonstrations. But the moment you graduate to undergrads and the graduate in the doctoral program, probably it becomes very subliminal. Probably it could be 1%, 5%. That is too much. As the professor said, probably the time allotted is the small clippings that you can demonstrate. Because our purpose is philosophical demonstrations, theory building, giving a connect. Industrial demonstrations, anyway, students are learning in the internship. We are professors, we have a very bigger pedagogical interventions. We are going to teach theory, why it happens, how does it happen, what is the modus operandi. The movie probably it becomes a small entertainment and probably just to give a break that you don't sleep in the class. But it's small, I mean, that is what a couple of suggestions I have. It depends on the course coding. Probably if you merge with the lower course coding, when you undergrads 1 to 3, 100, 200, 300 courses. But postgraduate courses, when we elevate ourselves to 400 or 500 or above 600, it becomes insignificant. That is what the suggestion is.
Thank you, sir.
Opinions to that. So, but these movie can be played as a part of extracurricular activities, because not part of the curriculum. Because in the management institute, students get the time for these activities also. So you need to check maybe in the foreign what are the practices, or more literature you need to include it, whether that is effective practices or not. Then you can derive this kind of conclusion. Otherwise, the sentence is okay. It is an effective way of explain management. But in curriculum or extracurricular activities, these things need to be addressed in your research.
Okay, thank you, sir.
One thing I want to say, perhaps you need to be more precise in the definition of movie, because what is being taken is general movie. So you can specify what kind of movie is, how it, because movie as such has an impact on society, that is there. But when you bring it to educational or scenario, what kind of movies, whether it is purely documentaries or some special movies or some documentaries are, prepared for that, how it is being implemented, the modus operandi has to be clear. So right now what you're telling, you are taking it, you're using it as in a very generic way. So perhaps if you make it more precise, it can suit your paper. Otherwise, every person will take it in their own way. So what is happening is that once you tell a movie, everybody is taking it in his own way. You should be more precise in the definition so that you can specify what you mean. Otherwise, the understanding will be different.
Thank you, sir.
I got some points. May I request the next presenter?
I would like to invite Ms. Arana Roy to present her paper on role of HR in corporate social responsibility and sustainable development.
A very good morning to every member present here. I am Arana, first year research scholar at Chandragupt Institute of Management, Patna. Firstly, I would like to mention that the research that I am going to present here is a work in progress. I am still working on it, and it is based on an extended abstract. My topic is the role of HR in CSR and sustainable development. Sustainable development incorporates inclusive and sustained growth so that we don't compromise on needs of future generation. CSR is closely linked with sustainable development, according to which companies should be obliged to make decisions based not only on financial or economic factors, but also on the social and environmental activities, because it is using up the resources from society and environment as well. Gandhiji has advocated trusteeship doctrine, which says that all people having money or property hold it in trust for society. His view was that society is to be regarded as the donor and companies are required to share part of their acquired wealth with the society for mutual benefit. Several companies follow this principle, and one of the names is Tata. The concept and practice of CSR is differentiated into external and internal dimensions. The external dimension relates to strategies and initiatives affecting outside stakeholders and is manifest in various environmental or social initiatives, while internal CSR is concerned with socially responsible behavior towards employees. This directly relates to mainstream human resource management practices such as flexible working hours, work-life balance, diversity management, inclusion, equal opportunities, equality at workplace, and employee representation. So there is a rapid growth in academic interest with regard to the relationship between CSR and HRM in organizations. There is an N number of literature suggesting HRM involvement in CSR initiatives, but overlooks the absence of a framework that articulates the HR role in CSR. It has been a major responsibility of HR to promote CSR culture by educating employees, providing training or communicating. Several companies have also incorporated key performance indicators to measure and reward CSR related performance under HR function. The topic has always been debatable as to if HR is a part of CSR or the other way. Well, both of them functions independently yet is interconnected. We may say that as far as internal CSR is concerned, HR has a major role over CSR, and the area of external CSR is yet to recognize the role. If we remove the HR roles from scenario, it would be difficult to align with CSR initiatives, as HR helps the organization to inculcate CSR culture by motivating, communicating, fostering active participation, and imparting training to the employees. So if HR is not going to do it, no one will. These are several papers that I have reviewed. The first paper discusses a broader perspective on the role that HR might play in CSR, while the second one reports the right that might accompany the risk that might accompany the changing roles that HR is assuming in any organization. Another paper talks about absence of proper framework to classify both the professions. Yet another shows how organizational factors affect the integration of CSR and HRM. It classifies HRM role on basis of Ulrich's model and integrated the role of HRM with CSR. These are the research questions that are going to be dealt in the study. How HR is involved in designing CSR strategy. This will help in finding if HR function has any say while formulating CSR strategy and to what extent. What conditions determine HR contribution to CSR and SDGs? External or internal factors that might have direct impact on HR and CSR integration. Potential HR roles in CSR and sustainable development. It would discuss what other roles that can be assumed by HR to assure CSR and sustainable development. Methodology used in the study is review method. Desk review approach based on secondary sources. Here are some data sources which comprise several websites, published and unpublished literature, papers and reports of various organizations. Proposed findings out of this study would be: what conditions determine HR contribution to designing CSR strategy is not clear. However, implementation of strategy is more concerned with allocation of resources, managing process and behavior. It is linked to organizational culture and employee involvement. So, HRM can contribute to the implementation part by promoting appropriate CSR related behavior in employees. The other question, HR roles are likely to be shaped by organizational factors. These factors might range from size of the organization, which sector and industry the organization is catering to, scope and position of HRM within the organization, the skills and competencies of the HR personnel. Potential HR roles in CSR and sustainable development should focus on intensifying partnership of HRM with other functions like marketing, operations and CSR to develop comprehensive measure of performance rather than justifying employee productivity and proving impact of HR on financial measures. This will also provide a transition towards a multi-stakeholder perspective. HR professional association with educational institutes, government machinery, civil society and NGOs will help in promoting research address and the issues that are yet to be noticed. And getting accustomed to local culture and traditions can be helpful in understanding the mindset of people, and it will also help in designing strategy and implementing it without much restriction. These are the references that I have acknowledged, and I would appreciate if anyone in the audience is having any particular query or suggestion regarding the abstract.
Yeah, anyone?
Area of HR which you would like to relate with CSR and whatever, sustainable SDG, no, DGP bolte ho, yeah, SDG. So that is what I want to say. It's quite generic. So you need to narrow down. You are a first year student, you have just started your journey, perhaps first or second presentation, which I know. So that you will have to look, and then more relevant research of that area of HR which you want to connect with CSR, that you will have to explore, then only your work will be good. Otherwise, this will look very good as an article, but not as a core research work. Fine. One more thing. We have got both the groups here, faculty as well as students. When we make presentation, you will see all other presenters. So it has to be black and white kind of thing normally. For PGP, we encourage to make such kind of attractive presentations, boardroom presentations, that is fine. But otherwise for all researchers, you will find that our presentations are in black and white only. So that is another suggestion for your this presentation. Fine.
Professional. Okay. Next is that your what you say proposed findings. It looks, these are the presumption. If you have started research, there is no place for presumption.
Sir, these
Your
are based
presumption will
on.
spoil your research.
Sir, these are based on the literature that I have reviewed.
Okay, then you mention this. Okay, because the CSR, HR, CSR and SDG, it is two. It's if it is if SDG is the equal to the world, CSR is a point, right? So how can you measure that whether any CSR activity is actually improving? Forget about SDG, sustainability. Is there any method? Have you applying any method? Have you thought of any method? Or you are following any established method? That way you need to mention. Okay, so it is not that you need to present the findings, you just present whatever you have conceptualized. How you have conceptualized and how you have conceptualized to measure things.
So there are various key performance indicators that are.
Show them.
Okay.
Show them that, okay, this paper has utilized or used this particular method, so I am going to do this. Because linking these three is very tough. Measuring that what causes what is very tough.
Haryana, small input. You have just started now. So with just few papers, you cannot have the review of literature. You need to, okay? So please take care of that also. All right, thank you.